Quite grateful to be here. Good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you for making out the time. I joined the quiz, and I must say I enjoyed every bit of it. But I think, Dr. Comfort, you need to return our prizes to us because you are already a doctor. So asking you how many bones are in the human body was something that should come like the palms of your hand. But thank you, everyone. I learned quite a few things from that session, and it's always a good time to be with the team over here. There's a whole lot that I learned from you, even though you have asked me to come share a bit with you today. Um, I would take a bit of time to speak to us about personal growth and development, but most definitely the time will never be sufficient for us to explore such a broad topic. So I would just touch it in bits, trusting that I'm speaking to young, vibrant minds who themselves are able also to research into some of these things. Um, and more importantly, it's as you would begin to see that it's a subject that requires a lot of personal responsibility, that requires you to actually take charge of it yourself. And I start this way. As young people um, and young adults, as you know, we have rightly called ourselves, we're in a transition phase. We're transiting from people who depended on our parents, depended on adults around us for every step of our socialization, depended on um, the society at large to guide us, to instruct us, to show us the way. But right now, we are now entering into a phase where we are taking responsibility, both for ourselves and, of course, even for other people around us. And what does that mean? It means that while you were in nursery classes, while you were in elementary school, while you were in high school, um, and even for a good number of us while we were even in the universities, you still have someone checking up on you, someone asking you, to come show them their results, your results rather, to say, oh, after this term, after this session, after this semester, what is your performance? How are you progressing? And bit by bit, we got ourselves to where we are. Now we're at a point where if you observe very well, and if your growth and your development has been one that, is inspiring and correct as it should be, you would see that your parents are pulling back. They are beginning not to tell you what you're doing is wrong or what you're doing is right. They are allowing you to test the waters by yourself, to make your own decisions, and for you also to face some of the consequences of those decisions that you are beginning to make. And that is what being an adult is about. It's about taking responsibility, it's about looking into the future and understanding the consequences of the actions or the inactions that we engage in, and navigating our way in such a way that this is what I want as an outcome, and I'm able to put in the work that is required to make sure that I land at that destination that I desire. So personal growth and development is more for me, if I would put a definition around it, is the personal responsibility that you take for the future that you desire, for the future that you desire. And picking the words one after the other, the first one there says personal, so it means that it is something that is unique to you. Your personal growth and your development is going to be unique to you. I've started, and I hope I'm being timed. I think I started some 3, 4 minutes ago. Okay, so it's unique to you, it's personal to you, and it will mean that you'll be doing yourself a great disservice if you begin to compare yourself with other people. And this should be clear to everyone on this call this evening. So because you are classmates, for those of us who are still in school, doesn't mean that we are going to be life mates. And if you have some older people around you, who said, "Oh, we when," I don't even have to refer to anyone older. I just need to ask you to look back into the people that you were in secondary school together. For those of us who are still in the universities, and for those of us who have graduated out of the universities, look back at your 100 level, 200, 300, and you discover that even though you all started together, you are not at the same place right now anymore. Even though all of you on the same day put on that graduation gown from your, at the valedictory service in your school, you took pictures and all of that. But if I may ask one or two people to unmute their mics to speak, you will confirm to everyone here that you all are not on the same level anymore. Some have gone, this way, some have gone that way. People have, and what is determining, the pace at which people are moving, what is determining the direction in which their lives is, progressing. It's a factor of the decisions that they begin to make. It's a factor of the opportunities that are open to them and how ready they were to take on those opportunities when they showed up. So even for those of you who studied the same course, you were not able to get into the same form of employment. You were not able to get into the same, form of advanced learning. Why? Because some were qualified to proceed, some were not qualified to do so. Even though everyone attended the same classes, wrote the same tests, wrote the same notes, read the same textbooks, your lives are significantly different. And it goes on like that. It goes on like that. It doesn't, come back, right? To say that, oh, we were all classmates at the time and then we're all still mates. No, everyone will determine the direction in which their lives, go. The next point I like to make, very quickly is to say that personal growth and development is a marathon, not a sprint. So it's a school that you never graduate from. And why do I say this? I say this because personal growth and development doesn't end at any time. Once you have grown into something, there's, the hand of, I saw a picture a while back, of someone who was climbing, a hill, and at the moment that he got to the peak of that hill and he was even, a sigh of relief that, oh, finally I got here. I've made it. He raised his head up and he saw that he was at the foot of yet another one. So the end point of a race is the finish line of one race is the starting point for yet another one, which is why I'm saying that it's something that you never graduate from, and your own personal journey up until now should tell you that story very clearly, that whatever it is that you have accomplished, whatever it is that you have become, it's just the starting point for the next thing that you are going to be. The moment you are not chasing anything, the moment you are not growing anymore, it means that you are dying. Sadly, as as unpleasant as that comes across, but that is what it means. If I remember anything from my primary school, or maybe first year in secondary school, and they tell us the characteristics of a living thing, I'm sure growth was one of that, right? And anything that is not growing is on its way down. It's on its way, to just go extinct. And which is why personal growth is something that we all need to take very seriously. And and of course development. And the world is so big, the world is so massive. There's quite a whole lot of opportunities everywhere, but just like I said, it requires people who are prepared to take on those opportunities, that are able to to leverage it when they get to that point. When they get to that point where decisions need to be made, when they get to that point where they need to be placed on a scale to see whether they are sufficient to be able to take on some certain opportunities or not. And That is where the work that you have done on yourself or the lack of it, that is when it becomes obvious. That is when it becomes very clear, those, and a very typical example is for those of us who are still in school or, maybe at one level or the other, where everybody comes to class, packs their bags and all of that. Some sits at the front, some sits in the middle, some sits at the back, and everyone at the end of, the class picks up their notes and leaves. The day when of reckoning is the day usually when suddenly out of the blues, I'm sure once I make this statement now, it will come all to you. Or maybe it has changed now. You just suddenly hear at the middle of one lecture, everybody tear a sheet of paper, and then everybody begins to scream, right? Everybody begins to
Yeah.
shout, what's this, and all of that. And the lecturer may just ask you the exact thing that he just taught you that day, right? Or maybe even ask you to reproduce an assignment that he had given you the previous week, write it and submit, and that's 20%, of your CA. And a good number of people will fail that. Why? Right? As simple as that was supposed to have been, that's exactly how life is, right? Life has a whole lot of opportunities. It has a whole lot to present to us. But how ready would we be when life comes calling? How ready would you be when those opportunities present themselves? For a number of us who are still in Nigeria, for a number of us, you are outside the shores of the country. But wherever it is that you find yourself, your readiness, your development, your preparedness, you know, so the opportunities that present themselves determines what you get out of it. For those who were not paying attention while that lecturer was, dishing out, calling out things, saying things in class, they will have themselves to blame, right? While those who were paying attention, who were listening, who were asking questions, will be the ones to say, oh, that was an easy course. It was a walkover. But not everybody will have a similar kind of experience. Let me just leave that and maybe go back to my notes and, before I run totally um, out of time. So I said before that it's personal and it cannot be outsourced. Before now, you had the privilege of outsourcing that development to your parents, to your uncles, to your guardians, to one counselor in school who was constantly, you know, checking on you, asking how are you doing, how are you progressing, and all of that. But I can see one, two, three people here who are already, out of school, been out of school for a long time, and I can, just call you out and put you on the spot and say, when last did your parent ask you about a professional exam that you are writing? You are the one making those decisions now, right? You are the one saying that what is the next thing for me, and you are the one plotting how you will get there. And shortly now, I'll, take us through a few things that I wrote down on how, on steps, stages, that you need to pay attention to in terms of personal development. It's personal, and what that means also is that you need to own your own journey. We all will not travel at the same pace. We all will not travel in the same direction. It's important that you own your own journey. When you begin to compare yourself with other people, you will rob yourself of joy. You will take out the strength that you need to be able to pursue your own dreams. I said before that our journeys, will go in various directions, go at various, paces, go at various speeds. And while it is important that you benchmark, it is wrong for you to compare. So, what is the difference between this? The Bible that I love so much, says that for every purpose under the sun, there is a time and a season. So there is a time for you to, be at certain stage and certain point in your life. And when you see what our parents, used to do, I'm open and trusting that they don't do that too much, you know, these days. But the truth is, it's out of frustration when parents see what what you are supposed to be doing, what your contemporaries are doing, and you are not even paying attention to those things at all. It's frustrating to them. It's like you have a baby who's supposed to be running, jumping and all that, and that baby is still just lying down, crawling. You know, it's frustrating to a parent to see such, and that is why parents come up with those. So because I'm sure, and I've been on sessions where we talk about parental pressures and all of that, and we heap it all on our parents, saying that no, they make life unbearable for us, by comparing us. But hold it, hold that thought, for a minute, and put yourself on the other side of the table, and compare that with the scripture that I read the other time, which says there's a time and a season for everything. And that is why personal development needs at this stage for you to, give it your personal attention. But, back to the point I was trying to make is that you need to own your own journey, because someone would always be ahead of you and there would always be people behind you. That is how it's designed, right? It's designed that way, and it will always be that way in whatever settings that you find yourself. And if you can see, oh, I'm not sure you can see my fingers very well, they are not going to be equal. The day I try to make them equal, right, is the day I become amputated, right? Because the best attempt to make them equal is to cut from here. And the moment you do this, you lose all of this, right? So everybody will be at different levels, playing different roles. Do you understand that? So the person who is lagging behind, quote and unquote, has a role to play. The person who is a front runner has a role to play. The person who is somewhere in the middle, coasting along, has a role to play. It's important for each person then to understand what role they are playing at every instance and where that is going to land them, right? So that the person who is not putting in the work is not comparing himself with the person who is so diligent and all of that. And then at the end of the day, it leads to frustration. And when we see young people, saying they are depressed, they are committing suicide, they are suicidal and all of those things, what led them to that a good number of the time is that they were comparing themselves with the wrong persons, with the people that are not on the same journey with them, the people that, are not on the same pedestal, even though they are of the same age, even though they are of the same gender, even though they perhaps are of the same social class. But there's always a differentiating factor that people would not see. And that is where your personal ingenuity comes in. That is where your personal growth and development um, comes in. I'll quickly take a few steps and then maybe open up for us to ask questions. I wrote here that the steps that you need to take in your personal growth is: number one, you need to define your Northern Star. You need to define for yourself where and who you want to be, where and who you want to be. But who you become is much more important, than, whatever it is that is going on around you. Who you become, it's more important than the environment that you found yourself, right? A good number of us have left the shores of the country, and you are in some other places where opportunities are a bit more, available for you to, explore yourself and all of that. But take a lizard from here, Mushi, and take, that lizard, to Washington. The lizard will not suddenly become an alligator. It will still be a lizard, right? What would make the difference for you anywhere you find yourself is who you are being. So if you were someone who was lazy, who was laid back, who doesn't take responsibility, who has to be told everything before you do anything, the moment you step out of the shores of the country, and then you get into a system, quote and unquote, that works, right? That's where frustration will set in, right? Because at that moment, there's nobody who's going to wake you to tell you that the train is going to leave in 15 minutes. And God bless you that you miss your train. You know, by the time that happens to you twice, no one would have to, come to reset you. You would, be the one to do that yourself. If you are a person who who would normally leave your lights on, and before now, your parents will have to tell you, hey guys, turn on the lights in the room, turn on the fan when you are leaving the place, turn off the AC. When electricity bills hit you once, twice, right? A natural reset will come in, and we don't have to wait until we get corrected, until we get punished, until we get pushed, and shaped on by systems like that. We need to take that personal responsibility for ourselves. So I said, determine what your northern star is, determine where you want to be, and that is going to be unique to you. And when I'm saying this, you can apply this to any aspect of your life. You can apply that to your health. You can apply that, to your academics. You could apply that even to your spiritual life. You could apply that to your physical appearance. It's all possible. Anything and everything is possible if you will first visualize it within yourself, and determine where you want to be, who you want to be. Picture the future that you desire. That's number one. Number two, then, is to do what I call a gap analysis, right? The gap analysis is, this is where I am, that is where I want to be. What do I need to do to move from point A to point B? That's the gap analysis. And that will take into cognizance the resources that you have. And I was saying the other time that you should not compare yourself. So, oh, I want to, for example, graduate before I clock the age 20. Is that possible for me now? The answer obviously is what? Is no. Do you understand? Why? I left that age a long time ago. So if I now compare myself with someone who is 16 and I say that I want to run the same race with that person, I would only end up in frustration. Is that example clear enough for us? So you need all the time to set for yourself target objectives that are measurable, that are smart, so to speak, right? That are specific, that are measurable, that are attainable, that are realistic for yourself, not for any other person. And then, like I said, you then need to do a gap analysis to say that for me to attain this, what do I have? Where am I today? You do a gap analysis. For example, let me use someone who's in school who says, I want to graduate, for example, with a 2-1. And at the end of year one, that is the second semester of year one, a CGPA is 2.3 out of 5, right? And he needs to get to 4.5 or no, 3.5, for example, for him to get a 2-1. The gap analysis is to say that between this 2.3 and 3.5, what then do I need to do to be able to make sure that I still attain this objective within the time frame that is available? You don't have an infinite time to stay within the university system, for example. So whether you like it or not, at the end of your 4-year course or 5-year course, you graduate. Even for people who do not or are unable to graduate, they give them an extra year, the second extra year. By the third one, they give them a certificate of attendance and tell them to go home, right? So everything is limited. Everyone is limited by time, right? And so, which is why it's important that you take the subject of personal development seriously, because whether you like it, TikTok, so says the clock. So you need to do a gap analysis to say, with what I have, with the resources I have, with the time that I have. I'm trying to identify what the resources are now, the time, the training, and all of that. What training do I require, for example? Because that's what a good number of people understand when you talk about personal development. The next thing they talk about is, oh, you need to go for a training. No, it's not always like that. There are some times that all you need to do is to pick up a book and read. Sometimes it's all just to get a mentor, someone who is ahead in that field, to say that what is the gap that I have. And I think I'm moving to the next point already. The next point is, once you identify the gaps, you then create a map to say that what are the things that are available to me to make sure that I fill this gap. If I need to move from point A to point B, and with the resources that I have, I can only get midway. What else can I add to it to get me from that midway to where I need to be? That is where ingenuity comes in, and that is where all of those things that I mentioned, comes in. Do I need to go for an internship? Do I need to go for a seminar? Do I need to go for a training? Do I need to speak to a coach? Do I need to speak to a mentor? Right? Do I need to do personal study? And all of us living in this time and age are very, very fortunate, way more fortunate than our parents, who needed to always be in classes built with bricks and mortar before, they can learn anything. They needed textbooks, which a good number of them, didn't have the resources to buy back in the day. So they were sharing. They needed lanterns, they needed candles, and all of those things to be able, to learn anything. Today, no, none of us have that limitation, right? You have a phone with which you have joined this call, you have a laptop, you have internet, and right there where you are, you can learn practically anything. Anything. You can learn anything. You would usually tell people that everybody thinks that Nigerian government is docile and they don't know anything and all of that. I will say to you, if you do not wish to sleep in your house this night, you can make that happen, right? Dominic, please, if you can mute your mic, thank you. Right. If you don't want to sleep in your house tonight, you can still make that happen. Just pick your phone, go on Twitter, right, or Instagram, and tweet right now that I have something, something, or I have, an explosive, or I, do this. Just say anything that you want to say, and everybody will see it. Right. If you want to make that happen, just
So we can't hear you. Your mic is being muted.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Please, can you unmute your mic? We can't hear you again.
So we can't hear you.
apologies. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we
Sorry.
can hear
Please
you.
tell me where I went off track.
Thank you.
At what point did you stop hearing me?
Twitter.
Riri, you want to help me, or should I just continue? I can barely hear you though. Okay, I'll just continue and try to tie it all up. I see that I'm really, really running.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
The,
please.
the last time we had you was when you are saying, "Do you want to sleep in your house tonight?"
Aha, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So I was just trying to say, by that, example, to say that, it's a global village. Everyone is everywhere. You could be anywhere, that you desire to be, right now. I'm sure you can see my background looking very beautiful, but I cannot tell you that's not what my room looks like, So it's all, possible. Anything and everything that you want to do in this day and age is possible with the advent of the internet. If and only if you would apply it in the correct way. Clear, so if and only if we will take the proper advantage, of it. If I would tie it all up together, I would say that as young adults, we are transiting from a stage where we depended on other people to take the responsibility of our growth and development to a stage where you are now the one who takes that full responsibility, and the outcome of our lives now solely lies on our hands. And I said it that it's not just about your career, it's not just about your education and academics, it's about your fitness, for example. It's about your health, it's about the relationships that you have, it's about your spiritual life, it's about your friends, it's about your social circle, it's about the network of people that you have, around you. It permeates into every aspect of our lives where nobody now takes responsibility for the things that you do. You now fully understand the concept, of cause and effect. You now fully understand the concept of consequences, knowing fully well that whatever it is that I put in determines what I get out of life, and that's applicable to every aspect and areas of our lives. Having said that, it's also good to perhaps give some word of encouragement to say that whatever it is that you have seen, whatever it is that you have observed, both in the lives of our parents, who are our first mentors, and of course in the larger society with you know external mentors, that we see around ourselves. Anything and everything that you can see is also possible with you. Anything and everything that you can see, you are also able to attain to it. And, that ties back into the example that I gave of the fact that the internet has made everything open, where, from wherever village, that you are, from inside your room over there, you could, for example, become a content creator and amass as much as 1 million followers, right? People who are interested in what you are putting out. And those who are doing that today, for example, and making serious money out of it, started, from, just one single content and began to grow it. And that doesn't have to be comedy. That doesn't have to be pranks. That doesn't have to be dance. That doesn't have to be get ready with me. You see people becoming creative. You see people, coming up with various ideas on a daily basis. And all of us, you, me, we are all just, going there, following them, consuming what they are creating. And as much as we are clicking, that is the, hundreds and thousands of dollars that are, going to some other people's accounts. It's important that in this day and age, we also take full, benefits of all of these resources that we have. Do you want to learn about finance? It's all available. Do you want to learn economics? It's all available. You want to learn makeup? It's all available. You want to, in fact, study the Bible in a more creative way? Your internet, your phone, your tab, and all of that can make that possible, for you. Anything that you want to learn is all available. You just need to pay. And what do you pay for it? Beyond paying for data, beyond, charging your phone, you need to pay attention. And that is where I wrap it up and open, for question. I want to thank you very sincerely for paying attention to me for this last 20, 25 minutes. And I just hope that you have been able to pick one or two things in all that I have said. I believe I will be able to give a bit more when the questions begin to roll in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Thank you for enlightening us with this beautiful lines and beautiful points. We're so grateful. We really appreciate it. I'm very sure some of us have questions. Please, if you have any questions to ask in, you can just indicate in the chat box. While doing that, there are a few questions here that we feel are very important for us to address regarding this topic. So I'll just be calling them out and we'll be getting a response. But before that, please, if you have any questions that you want to ask him, please indicate in the chat box and we'll answer your questions. All right, so for the first question says, what are the crucial things that should be included in a personal development plan? So can you hear me?
What are the essential things that must be included?
Included in a personal development plan. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that question. And just like I said, the questions will bring out quite a lot more. For me, number one thing that must be included in a personal development plan is the goal. because once the goal is not, set, once we will do everything and anything, we will wear ourselves out, and we'll still not achieve anything if we do not know exactly where we're going to. Someone rightly said that when you do not know where you are going to, every bus stop becomes, attractive. But because you know exactly where you are going to, you join a train, you join a bus until you get to that your bus stop, even though there are very nicer bus stops before your own, you will not stop over there. So one is to know where exactly it is that you're going to. Number two is what will take me there. You know, the scripture says a person who wants to build a house, would he not first sit down and count the cost to say whether with what I have I'm able to build it, or it will then get midway and then get stranded and then become a laughing stock. So you don't want to become a laughing stock. You want to make sure that whatever it is that is you are setting up as an objective for yourself, you have all that it takes. Now, when you do not have all that it takes, is where you seek for external help, because you will not always have all that it takes. You then identify those places where you could get help from, and a sign of humility is when you are able to ask for help. It's pride when we are not able to ask for help, either from people or from God, right? People will not always be able to help us, but God is always, our present help in our times of need. So be eager to always talk to God, to seek for help, to seek for wisdom, to ask Him to give you a way out of whatever it is that you found yourself, right? To give you the answers. But then also approach people. God has also placed people around you who have been on the journey that you are, embarking on, who have been there and done that. And those are the people you should always be eager to speak to. People you should be eager, you know. I would ask you to have a lot of friends with your contemporaries, have a lot of friends, who are younger than you. But at this, your age of, critical growth and development, have a lot of friends who are older than you, and you will, soon find out why. Have a lot of friends who are in the places that you want to go to, who have become who you want to become. Make friends with them, right? Consciously invest in those kinds of relationships. It will cost you, it's not money, right? It will cost you, seeking them out. It will cost you asking intelligent questions. It will cost you, humbling yourself to listen. It will cost you paying attention. And by the time you do that, bit by bit, you just suddenly begin to say that you're also becoming, So the question once again is, what are the elements that are important in a personal development plan? One, the plan itself. Two, the resources. Three, is to go on the journey itself and ensuring that you get help along the way to get to where exactly it is that you want to get to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So he said, number one, have the plan, that is the goal. Number two, you must have all that it takes to actually fulfill that goal. And if you don't have all that it takes, you have to seek for help from God and from people. Have friends that are older than you, that have gone ahead of you and have been through what you need to go through. Thank you very much, sir. So the next question is, how do we evaluate and assess personal development and growth? How do we evaluate and assess personal development and growth?
Thank you.
You,
Thank you
sir.
for that question. How do you, evaluate your personal development? I mentioned just now that you need to have a goal. And that goal is, when you attain that goal, that's a milestone. Or maybe I should say that I have milestones, right? And it's important to say, just, as I try to wrap up the other time, to say that you need to, celebrate your milestones, the little wins. Someone once said that when you wake up in the morning, try to lay your bed, right? And when you make your bed and make it tidy, make it clean, what that does for you is that you have achieved one thing. If you do not achieve any other thing throughout that day, you have achieved one thing, right? If the whole day turns out to be, a failure, one thing is sure, you are returning to a well-laid bed at night, right? So that is one. But then what that does to you really is this. Once you've laid your bed as the first thing that you do in the morning, what that does to you is that it gives you a sense of achievement, and all you need to do is like, a snowball. It keeps rolling, rolling, and the more it rolls, the bigger it becomes. The moment you achieve one small thing, it gives you the impetus, it gives you the energy, it gives you the belief within yourself that I can do the next one. And the moment you do the next one, you do the next one, and it keeps on going like that, until you become someone that is being celebrated, right? So it's important that you have milestones, that the moment I do this, take a pause, celebrate it. Don't wear yourself out trying to just be an overachiever, right? Um, I said to some people, or maybe I read it somewhere, that people do not want to die poor, and now they are dying young, right? Because they just, no, I must make it, and all of that. And we now live, of course, the downside of the internet age is that everybody is everywhere, so you are seeing someone who is, way younger than you, who is already driving a big car, living in a big house, and that is already putting pressure on you, right? you know, to also want to mark up and be just like that person. No, don't do that, right? But celebrate the little wins that you have. Have milestones so that when you achieve this one thing, you know that this one is done. And you could do that also, on a daily basis by journaling. Every day before you set out, you write out the things that you want to achieve for that day. It's as simple as, I want to call my mom, I want to call my brother, I want to send this text, I want to do this design, I want to have this, write this assignment, I want to write this book, I want to write this story, I want to do this social media post, and various things like that. I want to watch 2 episodes of this, of this series. They are very mundane things like that, but just put them down. And once you have done that, and then you do the one, you take it done, gives you the energy to go to the next one, to go to the next one, to go to the next one. So when you see people who work in corporate environments and all of that, you always see them with small notes, with a pen and all of that. It's because of that culture that they've grown up with, where they are always writing things down. And it's been said that the sharpest brain is not as sharp, enough as the faintest ink, because you will forget things. But the moment you write things down, years to come, you will always find it there that, oh, I said I would do this, and now I have done it. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. So he said we should have milestones and celebrate the little wins that we have achieved. Do not be an overachiever without celebrating your little wins so that you have the energy to continue to move on, to move ahead. Before I move on to the last question, I can see that Finn is raising her hand. So, Finn, do you have a question? If you do, please, you can speak. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir. Thank you
Good evening.
so much for that wonderful session. So, I have a question, sir, and
Okay.
it is, what advice do you have for people that picks book to read and find it very difficult to finish it, or even take a whole lot of time before they will even finish reading that book? How can they grow and develop personally?
Thank you for asking that question, and I think you mirror that question. Maybe not you. That question mirrors quite a lot of us, a lot of people um, who start but who do not finish. And lately I've been reading some literature and all of that that suggests that there's some, scientific, or hormonal reasons why people find themselves in that space. But whatever the cause is, whatever the reason, it's something that can be overcome, right? Why do you start and you do not finish? For many reasons. One could be because you lost interest somewhere along the way. Some, could be because you found something more interesting, you know, and then you just moved on, from that one to the next, and it could also be a sign of what's going on behind your mind and all of that. Yeah, it speaks to, in a broader sense of it, discipline, right? And it's something that you then need to train yourself on, to say that I need to finish this before I start that. I need to deliberately drag myself to make sure that I finish this before I start that. Because what then happens is that you put your hands onto so many things, and you do not feel the sense of fulfillment in finishing anything. And just like I said the other time, that sense of fulfillment is what should drive us into the next one, to drive us into the next one. And a person who touches everything on the surface like that would not have depth, one, and would not feel that sense of satisfaction of finishing anything. And it might not be very obvious, now, but over a very long time, and the cumulative effect is, things that people call depression, because what happens is that such a person will not feel like an achiever. It might sound, a bit too awkward, but at the very root, of it, it's one of the things that drives people, into such extremes, where you say that there's nothing that you start that you are able to finish. So it's important that you deliberately discipline yourself, to make sure that whatever it is that you start, you finish it. Anything. It could be as little as, so when you read some literature, you see things like ADHD and so many other things like that that could be at the root cause, where people start things and they are unable to finish. But it takes discipline. So if you're asking for one single word on how to overcome that, I'll say discipline. Give yourself that discipline to make sure that whatever it is I start, I finish it. And there are things that could help you. Things like placing notes in, across, putting notes on books. You use the example of books, but I'm extending it now to say that it affects so many other things. Placing notes, on those books, to say, oh, I've read it up to this point, and I need to come back to it. That way, anytime you see that book, it points to you that, okay, I've not finished it, I still have an unfinished business here. And just like I said, it's a precursor for anxiety. When you have so many unfinished businesses, you are setting yourself up for anxiety. You are setting yourself up, for unease, because you will not know it, but unconsciously there will be somewhere within you, where that unease will be. All of us have felt that especially when we're preparing for exams, right? That unease that you have, until you get into the exam hall, until you've seen the paper, until you finish and you step out, and you just suddenly see as if a big load was taken off you. And the you who someone was greeting who couldn't answer, now is speaking to people, gisting and all of that, and you feel easy within your body. It's because of that unfinished business, right? That you had. And imagine you now carrying that. Imagine you having that feeling that you normally have, few hours to the exam, having that perpetually all the time. It's not good for your health. I leave it at that.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for that. So he said, in order for you to be able to accomplish something or do something to the very end, you have to be determined, very disciplined about it. Thank you so much, sir. So before I move to the last question, is there any other question that anyone wants to ask? If you have any other question, this is the right time to ask the question. Okay, if there is no question, so to my last question, sir. So the question says, how do we deal with criticism and feedbacks in the process of personal development? How do we deal with criticism and feedbacks in the process of self-development?
Thank you very, very much. So, of course, we know feedback will come in various forms. Um, and maybe taking a few steps back to what I said earlier to say that you need to um, take your journey and own it. Let it be your own. Let it be something that you really want to do because it becomes hurtful to you when feedback comes, when the change that is trying to be forged is something that other people desire for you and you do not desire for yourself. I hope that is a bit clear. So before now, while we were in secondary school and all of that, our parents were the ones saying, "Hey guys, go pick your books, read." Right? That is when someone else is taking the responsibility for your growth. Someone else sees a future that they want for you, and they are doing everything to push you in that direction. Now you are young adults. You are the one who has seen a future that you desire for yourself, and you are the one deliberately putting yourself under the check, putting yourself under the discipline, doing all that it will take to make sure that you become that person that you have seen that you want to become, right? So when occasionally, when criticism come, when feedback come, you take it in good faith. You receive it. Would all of it be relevant to you? No. You pick, right? You pick. You have the choice. You have the privilege of cherry picking, feedback. And I'm saying this because the journey is yours. It's like someone is asking a fish, why can you not climb this tree? As far as the person is concerned, the person feels that you should be able to climb the tree. But you know that you are a fish and it is not part of your skill set. It is not part of what anybody should judge you on for you to climb a tree, right? You take the feedback, you listen to it, but you face what you are empowered for. You face what you are about. You face your swimming and you keep doing it till you become perfect at it. Will the person have been wrong by saying you should be able to, climb the tree? That is what the person can see, right? Now, while it's important to say that, I'm also not giving you the license to say that let people say whatever it is they feel like saying. Let me face my life and face, and I'm saying, you shouldn't do that because your understanding is also limited. Perhaps that person who is telling you should be able to climb the tree has been somewhere where he saw a fish climbing a tree. And perhaps with a bit of training here, a bit of training there, it will be inconvenient, it will, be uncomfortable. But if that fish gave him or herself to that discipline, maybe one day we will see the fish climbing a tree. I hope I'm clear in the example that I've given, right? So it's neither here nor there. It's important to hone your journey, but then take criticism, as it comes, be open to it. But then when you have received it, you have the right to then cherry pick and say, this one is relevant to me, this one is not at this time. But then a good number of people are close to criticisms. Once they hear that it is criticism, they don't want to hear it. Because it is uncomfortable, they don't want to hear it. Because it hurts their feeling, their ego, and their picture of themselves that they've created, they don't want to hear it. Such people will not grow. You understand? Such people will be comfortable wherever it is they are, right? But then that future that is possible, they will never taste it. Why? Because they do not want feedback. They do not want criticism. They do not want to hear any opinion that is different from what they have believed. I hope I have not confused you.
Not at all, sir. Thank you very much. So he said when criticism comes, take it in good faith and then pick the one that is important to you, that is essential to you, that will help you to face and continue doing that which you need to do to get better. And those that are not willing to accept criticism will not be able to go far. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. We really learned a lot, and I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for all. Thank you so much for your time. Thank